Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. We've got a significant severe weather event unfolding over the next 2 days. We're going to break down the details for you day by day and also talk about a winter storm that's all going to be shifting off to the east. That is going to get going up there into the upper Great Lakes, heading into Wisconsin, back into Michigan, and eventually swing up into New England as we head into Thursday, Friday, and it could even hang on as late as Saturday. So we got a lot to cover. Here is the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center as of this morning. You can see where the cold front lies. It's still back behind the Amarillo region, and this is your warm front. All right, so out ahead of it, you've got a lot of warm, soupy air mass, and that's where we do, in fact, have an expanded, enhanced risk for severe storms. Later on today, it's all going to get going, I think, around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So they did, in fact, upgrade to an enhanced risk and actually pushed it further south within the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Does include the Oklahoma City region, back into Tulsa, into Springfield, as well as into St. Louis. And then it back builds into the evening time frame into central Texas, where it gets a little bit lighter down here into slight and even marginal as you get into the San Antonio region. But I do feel things will get going as we head into that afternoon time frame, and the main concern with this setup is just some very large hail. This is a widespread 30% probability, and it is hatched that it basically is implying 30% of you have the possibility within this red shaded area of possibly seeing some very large hail. That would include a 2-inch or possibly greater hailstone. Further south, you do have that slight risk, but that would extend all the way down into the Austin region and then well northward all the way up into Louisville, as well as into Cincinnati, back into Charleston, even into the Columbus region. So this is going to be a very active day today, and also on the tornado front. And I think this looks like it has actually increased from what we were looking at yesterday. So they do, in fact, have that hatched risk up there into the Oklahoma region, back into the Tulsa area, into Springfield, as well as into St. Louis. This is your favorite area. Have a 10% probability of possibly seeing an EF2 tornado within that region within a 25-mile radius of any given point within this yellow shaded area. Further south, that tornado threat does extend into portions of southern Oklahoma, as well as in the northern portions of Texas there, and then lighter, a low end threat, non-zero threat as you get further south into the Austin region, back into San Antonio, as well as you push northward as you get into the warm front further north into the Indianapolis region. And then as we head into tomorrow, that all shifts off to the east. So there's going to be an overnight threat tonight as this continues to push off to the east. But I do feel a resurge as you start to warm that air mass into tomorrow afternoon. That's where we're going to be concerned about another round of severe storms, especially another enhanced risk, which would include the Huntsville region back into Nashville, as well as into Knoxville, up here to Louisville, as well as into the Cincinnati region. Lighter as you get further south into the Birmingham region, and as well as all the way down into Jackson. Does include a marginal risk all the way down into Mobile, and then swinging out to the east back into Roanoke. And as you get into the Pittsburgh region, just some marginally induced severe storms, and especially down there into the DC region, into Baltimore. So let's break this thing down for you. Here we are zooming in into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I do feel they're going to have a cap in place for much of the day, but as we head into about 4 o'clock, right? So as that low-level jet continues to push east, I think we're going to have enough energy to break the cap up there into the Wichita Falls region, right around the Red River. And this latest update at 4 or 5 o'clock has some isolated supercell thunderstorms. And this is the main concern with this. Kind of isolated and scattered in nature. Not everybody's going to see one. Not everybody's even going to see rain. But we are going to see the severe storms. They could include that very intense hatched, large hail which could be up to tennis ball, maybe even some baseball size, is definitely not ruled out up there into the Oklahoma region. And as we swing northbound into Oklahoma, getting towards around 7 o'clock, you can kind of see where some of these supercell thunderstorms could lie. So that same storm could unfold into the Wichita Falls region and then shift northeast. So sometimes it only takes a couple supercells. But if they lay down some larger hail and that cap's already broken and they've already reached some 60,000 foot cloud tops, that can tend to stay and lay down a pretty good hail swath for an extended time frame. And that may be what we're seeing tonight with these supercell thunderstorms. So likely possibly into the 7 o'clock region, we could be dealing with some supercells back into McAlester, into Muskogee, as well as into the Tulsa region, into Bartlesville. And then further north, I think it gets going a little bit earlier up there in the Kansas region. They could also see some of those supercell thunderstorms out here into the Kansas City region, back towards Topeka. And these would continue to shift in eastbound into Missouri. But further south, as those storms continue to erode the cap down there in the Texas region, as we head into 9 o'clock. So I think the favored time frame down there in Texas would be about 5 to 10 o'clock. So I think they all originate within the Wichita Falls region, and then they tend to back build further south. So again, these just little isolated supercell thunderstorms is all it takes. And some of these could be some of that larger hail variety, if not some of that very larger hail, as this would continue to race across the Metroplex, through Dallas, through the Waco region, all the way through Austin, and extending further south into the San Antonio region. And heading into 10 o'clock, things would likely look like this, swinging off into East Texas by then. Those would actually start to weaken the further east you go. So I think it's all done within North and Central Texas, but the main event is going to be unfolding up there into northwestern Arkansas and then swinging over into Missouri. And that's where we could be seeing those stronger tornadoes possibly. So I think it gets going on the tornado front up there into up into towards Topeka, back into the Kansas City region, and then that shifts over into Missouri. So it's very active. I'll actually be live on this event starting around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn the notifications on, so when I do get live, you do get notified, and we'll be breaking all this down for you with extended live coverage throughout the evening. And this will be swinging off in a bumpy ride later on tonight as we go into that 10 o'clock time frame into Missouri, back into southeastern Missouri. That will continue along the warm front into Illinois, as well as into Indianapolis region. That heads into the Ohio region and eventually spreads into Pittsburgh towards West Virginia. And it does include all those areas into portions of Baltimore, as well as into the DC region. And then going into the wee hours of the morning, right along this warm front, we are going to be seeing some scattered, isolated supercell thunderstorms even into the overnight as we head into that 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, with these squall lines moving through, mesoscale convective systems through Indiana, as well as Ohio. And then there's the main system further south. It kind of rings itself out as you swing towards Houston. But once we get into the daytime heating hours, again, this is as you wake up into Tuesday morning, that will have a threat over portions of West Virginia. I don't think these are as intense. That's why we do have that marginal risk in place going into the Pennsylvania region, heading into DC and the Baltimore region. But the main event will be kind of getting going down here into Arkansas, as well as into Tennessee. And as we tap into some of that daytime heating before that cold front arrives, that's when we can see that tornado threat unfolding as we head into the afternoon time frame there in Kentucky, into Tennessee, as well as into portions of northern portions of Mississippi. Those could be definitely some intense supercell thunderstorms, which likely would include possible tornadoes associated with it, and some significant hail producers as well. And you can look at the next 24 hours. This is the latest update on some of these helicity tracks. And remember that supercell thunderstorm I kind of showed you bubbling up around Wichita Falls? The latest run has it actually staying together, and it could be picking up a a pretty significant hail swath across this region. So this is just the latest 12Z run, basically really bullish up there into Oklahoma, back into northwestern Arkansas, as well as into Missouri, and back into central and southern Illinois, as well as into Indiana over the next 24 hours. But notice it's a little bit lighter down there in Texas. And if that does keep up, they would actually not and put that an enhanced risk back into Oklahoma and probably downgrade if that you know, these trends keep up down there in Texas, and kind of implying the cap may be a little bit stronger than what was looking at initial glance into the overnight hours. But things get going on the winter front, because we do have a fairly decent cold front for April standards, and as this swings across and pushes further into the East Coast, it's going to build that significant low pressure starting to deepen up there, 985, and wrap around. That is all snow would likely unfold into Wisconsin there. And then as this continues to wind up, yeah, we're even talking possible snow showers back into Chicago region, believe it or not. And this would continue up the East Coast. Again, more heavy rain is the last thing they want down there in Florida, up the East Coast in the Carolinas, and back into those areas into the Mid-Atlantic. It'll eventually head up the eastern seaboard, and then that colder air starts to tap into New England, where all this is just going to be in the form of snow up there into upstate New York, back into Vermont and New Hampshire, and especially there into Maine. I think just gets crushed, and the wraparound there would actually sneak into Michigan by then as we head into Thursday. But the latest guidance has this low pressure kind of sitting around for a couple of days. It really doesn't go anywhere, so therefore it just kind of wrings itself out, and we're still dealing with some snow showers even into you know, Friday morning time frame. So where you do have some severe storms, a marginal risk in Pittsburgh, it could actually end with a dusting or 1 or 2 inches of snow across this region for western PA there, and that'll eventually continue to wring out that snow. I think it actually extends maybe even to Saturday. So it is an extended snowstorm for April standards up there into New England, as this would move out. And then we'll be watching our next system will be coming ashore off the West Coast. So if you break down the precipitation front between now and Saturday, it kind of looks like this. So it all gets going towards the Texas Panhandle. This as the cap breaks further down in the Texas, but especially there in Oklahoma. But where that warm front just kind of sits there, that's where you could be looking at some training rains and definitely some heavier rains, as these red shaded areas would pick up a 2 to 4 inch swath across this region through the Ohio Valley, back into Mid-Atlantic. And again, for Long Island, back into Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island, those areas get another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. And then where it's cold enough further north, it's going to be snow. And some of these are going to be pretty significant totals, 12, 18, maybe even some isolated 2 feet of snow is definitely not out of the question up there in Maine. And then you get the wraparound that filters into portions of Michigan as well as into portions of Wisconsin. That'll head into the weekend, but that behind that, it looks like a ridge will start to build in for your later end of the weekend, heading into early next week. You start to dry out and will start to warm up. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you're definitely subscribed to the channel. Stay tuned for live coverage about 4 o'clock this evening. We'll be with you as long as it takes throughout much of the evening time frame, heading into the extended time frame. So appreciate you guys following. Do like this channel, definitely hit the subscribe button. Catch me next update. Why I protect you before and after storm.